All right, guys, this is Crazy Kev here, and I'm here with my man, Josh Thomson. Josh, how are you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. It's been thunderstorms here in Texas, and I'm in North Texas, so a couple little tornadoes yesterday down the way. Not close to me, but anytime you hear tornado, you're just thinking to yourself, man, they're gonna tear everything up. I'm from California, man. One earthquake will take out the whole state, right? But here, a tornado is literally got to hit your house for it to disappear. So I don't know why everyone is so worried about them. I was worried. I was like one of those guys when I moved here. I was like, man, tornadoes. Just the Wizard of Oz had me fucking freaking out. But everything's good, man. So we get what's worse is the hailstorms. We get golf ball, egg size, softball type hail every once in a while, and it will fuck your car up. So you got to make sure you have those 3 and 4 car garages to get all your vehicles inside. Otherwise, your car is done for, man. Dunzo. Dunzo.
Yeah,
Man. So you were telling me you're a Philly, huh?
yeah, I'm from Philadelphia. You don't really have that stuff going on too much. No hailstorms really too often over here, so I don't have to deal with that too much.
Now y'all got the bums though, right? They run in the street.
Oh yeah, we got too many of those. I'll tell you that.
Like California, man. You guys, for East Coast, West Coast, it's all the same. Fucking bums everywhere.
Oh
I
my
left
God.
California 2 years ago and moved to Texas, but man, I know we have bums in like Houston, San Antonio, definitely in Austin. We've got them a little bit in Dallas and South Dallas area, but you know what? It's a pretty dope area. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely glad you're happy with everything. No doubt about it. And Josh, it's obviously been a little bit since we've seen you in the cage, but I mean, talk to us a bit more about kind of your career, how it kind of went, maybe some of your favorite memories along with your journey.
I had a great career, man. I came up before there was the internet, really. I mean, like 97, 98 was some of my first fights. I mean, I had probably close to 14 fights before I even got into the UFC. Not a lot of them have been recorded. I mean, like back then we used to just show up at like people's gyms and they would just weigh us and you'd match up against whoever was available. And you were able to pick and choose like, hey, that guy, I weighed in at say 168, 169. Some guys were weighing like, 195, but you kind of had seen them fight from the show before, a couple weeks before that. So you're like, you know what? I see his skill level. I'll go ahead and fight him. So we kind of knew each other, but you would fight just random guys. I mean, I fought a guy that was 205 pounds, but only because I saw him fight my friend, one of my good training partners, who my friend just walked right through him. I was like, oh, I give my buddy a good go. So I'll give it a try. And you at that time you would just fight whoever if you wanted to make the $150. And so I know it was a lot of money back then, but it was one of those situations where you either want to get paid or you didn't want to get paid. You want to make $150 for the weekend, and then it slowly, for me, it elevated pretty fast. I had 2 fights at $150 and it jumped to 300. And then, then promotions that were kind of like local, whether they were in Oregon. I was living in Idaho at the time. So Oregon, Washington, Southern Idaho, and Montana, Utah, they'd fly me in. I was making $300 to $500 a fight. Then it shortly jumped up to $1,000 a fight, after about 4 or 5 fights at $500 a fight. So I started making $1,000 a fight and the UFC came in knocking after that. So it was kind of good, man. A young career. I fought for a long time, about 22 years total is how long I fought. I had a good career, man. Very happy with my career. Very happy with everything that I did. I would, of course, change a couple little things, and it had nothing to do with the direction of where I did things. It would just have to do with the seriousness of how I took my career. As a younger fighter, as a younger male, you tend to think it's going to last forever, and it can just tell you it doesn't. When I see guys like Dustin Poirier, man, just fucking can still compete at an extremely high level, and I know his health is definitely he's still very healthy, and his everything seems very good with him. I look at him and I think to myself, I'm like, man, you got another 2 or 3 good fights in you, to make another, $2-3 million. And if I was him, I would say just capitalize, but look, ultimately, like he said, he spent a lot of time missing a lot of time with his daughter because of training camps, spending a lot of great quality time with his wife, who, from what I understand, is a fantastic person. And so just knowing Dustin himself and training with Dustin, like he's just a fantastic person in and out, inside the cage and outside the cage. So I think it's probably just him mentally is like, you know what? I just need a break. I want to spend more time with my family. When you get towards the end, you're kind of like, you start questioning like, why, how much longer am I to do it? If my heart's not fully in it, then, it's maybe time for me to go. So he might be checking out the right time. But for me, I was always like, oh, there's one more payday right there. One more payday. But that's the kryptonite of a fighter right there. So, but overall, happy with my career. Loved everything about it. In terms of highlights, there's moments in my career that most people wouldn't say would be considered like a highlight. But for me, it was. And I think because fighters look at their own career in different ways on how they would look at it. For me, I looked at the Hermes Franca fight was a huge fight for me. That made me the number one fighter in the world. I beat Hermes. I should have been fighting for the UFC title at the time. And I was ranked number one in the world across all boards, whether it was Pride, whether it's UFC, whether whatever, all the other smaller promotions. I was considered the number one lightweight in the world. BJ Penn had went up to welterweight. Matt Serra was kind of lingering around, but he was also going up to welterweight as well. There was just fighters that had left the lightweight division and moved their ways up. And for myself, I was considered to be the number one guy in the world. That to me was a big win over Hermes and putting me in that position. Shitty situation where, the UFC was hemorrhaging money. I never got the title shot, which I should have. And that bothered me a little bit. And that fight happening, that to me stands out. That's one of my highlights in my career, beating Hermes, making myself the number one fighter in the world. That was one. And then also two, obviously winning the title against Gilbert Melendez, the way it happened, just the history that I know with Gilbert, him and I training together, having the expectation of how good he was in the gym, not really understanding like what I needed to do. I mean, outside of only training with him, I knew no matter what I threw at him, he was going to be extremely talented. He's going to be extremely good at defending as well as pushing the pace. The number one thing that I learned from training with him, though, was just that there was no quitting that guy. He's a dog. He's just somebody that would come forward, tired or not, and so I knew, which I think ultimately led to my winning the title, was making sure that I was in the best shape of my life ever. And people talk about it all the time, but there's hands down that I was in the best shape of my life for that first fight. And even for my second fight with him, I was. But what happened was the first fight, all I needed was the conditioning, the cardio, and to be able to push past him and push him to a place he'd never been before. That made him a better fighter. The second fight, to me, was one of my favorite fights in my career. Probably, I would say probably my favorite fight, even though I came up short in the fight, is because I threw caution to the wind. I just didn't care. I didn't care whether I won. I didn't care. I fought a very dumb fight, but I also fought a very exciting fight. No matter what, I was having fun out there. There was moments in my career I was like, man, why am I doing this? It was so intense. All I was doing, I was focusing on just winning the fight. And in that second fight with him, I just had excitement. I was happy. I was coming off of a long injury of 18 months. I was just extremely excited to be back inside the cage and defending my title. And it was just fun. It was just a great, fun fight. And I know I left it all out there. I mean, I had to sleep for like the next 2 or 3 nights with a neck roll pillow because my head was so lumped up from taking elbows and punches. So I had to sleep sitting up on the couch with a neck roll pillow because I couldn't put my head down on a pillow because it hurt so much. So, but I look at those things, right? Like I'm telling you this and you're shaking your head like, man, that sounds shitty.
That's a horrible.
It sounds horrible, right? But to be honest, man, I don't know. There was something gratifying about it. It was like, this was fucking awesome. I had a great fight. People are still buzzing about it 4 or 5 days later, and in this day and age with media, like it goes in one ear and comes out the other. And whenever the next piece comes in, people forget about your fight. It just was exciting to know that like I put on a fantastic fight. I was happy with my performance. Of course, I wanted to win. But Gilbert made adjustments. He made adjustments to his conditioning. He made adjustments to the things that I did really well in the first fight, and he adjusted to those and was able to capitalize and get the win. The third fight, I thought I won, and it just came down to a split decision where they gave it to him, but I thought I won, and it was very upsetting when I didn't win, but it is what it is, like I moved on. I went on to have a great career with the UFC. Had my first fight in the UFC with Nate. Obviously, I think everybody pretty much knows me from that. The head kick knockout, the drop, the finish, all those things, whatever it was you want to call it. And Nate being who he was, he's just coming off of his loss to Benson Henderson for the title. I was just coming off my loss to Gilbert Melendez for the title. The two of us fought, him being Gilbert's teammate for, part of the scrap pack. And Gilbert and I having such a long stemming relationship inside the cage, and also training together and everything with our nemesis type of mentality. It was kind of just made for great action with Nate and I. And it worked out in my favor in that fight. And outside of that, man, those are kind of the most memorable moments I think of my career. I had a couple other good fights. I fought Jay-Z, had a good fight in that. It was just a fun fight. Jay-Z, I kind of feared Jay-Z when watching him from before in K1 and other organizations, and just seeing, man, he came with power. He just came with pressure, good wrestling. He had a great arm and guillotine. Like he was just somebody that physically just seemed like he was extremely strong, which he was. But if you push him to a pace and you could survive to the later rounds, I knew that he would slow down. So there's guys in my career. The Pat Healy fight, I broke uh two of my ribs in my sternum, in the first round, was able to get the finish in the end of the third, but it was very one of those, like if I didn't get that finish, I probably would have lost the fight because I had won the first, he had won the second, he was kind of winning the third. I was able to sweep him and get to the top position, get his back, and finish the fight with like a minute left. It was just very dramatic, and I was exhausted. I couldn't get a deep breath. My ribs were broken in my sternum. It was very emotional for me. Not many people know that. So, those are some fights and some things that stand out to me. And Pat Healy and I have become really good friends since then. Helped him train, with BJ Penn in Hawaii. The three of us all got together and helped him train for several fights, and spent a lot of time together in Hawaii training. So it was fun, man. We had some good stuff, man. My career in a wrap up was everything I wished it would be. Obviously a couple things that came up short. The Benson Henderson fight, taking that fight after not being able to fight Anthony Pettis. They gave me the Anthony Pettis fight for the title. They took it away. It was one of those, like, he got injured and then they wanted me to fight some unranked guy. And I was like, yeah, stick it, shove it up your ass. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, eventually they gave me Benson a couple of weeks later, and I took the Benson fight. I was like, give me somebody ranked. You give me somebody ranked, then I'll fight him. I don't care. I was asking to fight RDA. I was asking to fight Donald Cerrone. I was asking to fight Benson Henderson. I was asking to fight TJ Grant at the time. Like, these are all guys that were ranked in that top, 6 or 7 at the time. I said, I'll fight any of those guys. Give them to me. And they finally came up with Benson, but they had told me to shove it. They're like, no, man, you'll just sit on the sideline for 6 months or 8 months or whatever until you're ready to take a fight. I was like, okay. I said, you know what? I got a lot of money saved up, so we'll be here for a while. I mean, I've accepted fights. You just give me a ranked opponent and I got it. So Benson, luckily enough, take the fight. And, we had a great fight. Just came up short. Another fight I thought I won, but it is what it is.
Right. No,
To wrap it all up in the career wise, I thought it was a good career.
yeah, no, like I said, you definitely have an awesome career. You definitely fought a lot of beasts, no doubt about it, man. And like you mentioned, you've obviously started a long time ago. You were in Strikeforce. I mean, talk to us a bit more about maybe some cool behind the scenes stuff with that promotion.
Strikeforce was a family. So like it kind of trickled over into Bellator as well. So the guys from Strikeforce was Scott Coker, obviously, but Rich Chow. We had Mike Hogan there as well. I mean, like Marwan Allah was there, the Showtime crew was there. They kind of all trickled into the Bellator organization as well as Scott took over Bellator. And so those are all guys that I've been friends with for, forever, since 2004, 2005, 2006. We all became friends. I mean, I've known Rich Chow since, I want to say, probably close to 2002, 2003. So, I mean, it's been, 21, 22 years, somewhere around there. And yeah, it's been a great experience, man. Like, that whole promotion, the behind the scenes. If I can give you anything from behind the scenes, Frank Shamrock and I used to train together a long time ago at AKA. He started working for Strikeforce at the time, doing cage side commentary, and he always used to like talk shit, about the AKA guys, kind of downplay us, and and kind of just take jabs at us while he was doing the commentary. Very unprofessional, but Frank was a very bitter, kind of, as at that stage of his career, an older man. And so that was kind of like where he was at. Since then, I mean, I've had communications with him and talked to him, and I've told him, hey man, we've grown up. At least I feel like I have. And I extended my apologies to anything I said or done to him back then, and not sure if it really comprehended. Yeah, not sure if he really comprehended what was going on. But bottom line is, like, I have no ill will towards him, but it was but we did have some really strange relationships in the beginning in terms of our friendships and our training partners and this and that. But overall, man, AKA had a great relationship with Strikeforce, and Strikeforce had a great relationship with AKA. And man, San Jose back then, it was buzzing. MMA in San Jose was buzzing back then. That was, I would say, that was probably the height of MMA in the world. UFC was doing well. Strikeforce was trying to like make that push to catch him, and I guess ultimately, there was a company that owned the majority share of Strikeforce called Silicon Valley Entertainment, and they decided to go behind Scott Coker's back and sell the promotion, to the UFC and start reaching out. And ultimately, had we been able to save it, I think you'd be looking at two promotions side by side, competing against each other. I think it would have been great for the sport, but Silicon Valley Entertainment had no balls, and they decided to go ahead and reach out and try and sell, all because they thought they were going to get an NBA team in San Jose. And the reality is that the NBA was never going to come to San Jose, ever. They had no desire to come to San Jose. They already had the Golden State Warriors. And part of that was their way of forcing the Golden State Warriors to move out of Oakland and move it into San Francisco, where they opened up the new stadium, the Chase Stadium or whatever. So that's how they made the Golden State Warriors do that, by saying we're going to open up a place. We're going to open up another team in San Jose. And ultimately they had no desire. I mean, I've talked to so many people that work for the NBA and they're like, they were never going to do it. So basically Strikeforce was sold for this illusion that they thought they were going to get an NBA team at the San Jose arena.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
shitty, right? City situation. Can you imagine how the sport would be right now had Strikeforce and UFC still been alive? It'd
Yeah,
be great.
it's really interesting to think about, because that was another thing I wanted to ask you about, because it seems like nowadays, like almost majority of people, they just watch the UFC, and most people are just, almost the UFC is kind of taking over MMA in a sense. But like if you're trying to open up a promotion nowadays, I mean, how would you kind of go about it to kind of get people to watch your promotion over the UFC anymore?
Look, the UFC is too big right now. No
Yeah,
promotion is starting right now and going to be able to take over. And if they are, it's the guys that have the money to do it. They're all in the Middle East. I
yeah,
mean, sure, there's a couple other guys that could potentially help out, but let's just be honest, man. The guys that are willing to sink this much money into a promotion, they're going to just jump on the bandwagon with the UFC and
oh
say,
yeah,
"Hey, let me give you this amount of money. Let me go ahead and let's start building something else." And you're seeing right now with Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana and the guys that are starting boxing. If they wanted to start their own UFC promotion, they want to start their own MMA promotion, and they wanted to sidestep around Dana would, I wouldn't say it would make it difficult, but they would have to spend billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars to go ahead and make this happen. And I didn't see it happening. And I think with them, they've had such a good relationship with the Fertitas, with Dana, and whatever it was, in owning 10% of the business and being able to get their feet wet in there and seeing what it takes to do it. That's why they've joined with Dana in terms of boxing. Look for Dana to probably step away coming up from the UFC. And I'm not saying he's going to fully step away, but he's going to create some space. Hunter Campbell, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, and those guys that are there at the top with the matchmakers, they'll start to take over a little bit and generate. I mean, the business kind of runs itself. Don't be wrong. Dana will still be involved along with R. Emanuel and all the guys from TKO and everybody else that's involved. They're all going to be involved when it comes to the bigger business deals. So it will not be hurting for money in any way. But when it comes to the matchmaking and doing the fights, all that stuff, look, Hunter Campbell is a fucking brilliant matchmaker and businessman, as well as Mick Maynard, a brilliant man as well. Sean Shelby, fantastic. I mean, Sean Shelby is one of the reasons why I got into the UFC. I fought on his card with his ex-wife, Shogun in Hawaii. Dana White signed me from that show. He also signed Robbie Lawler, Pete Spratt, other Pat Cabbage, all these guys that were on that show that night. He signed all of us around the same time. And we all came from Sean Shelby's show that he had done back in like 2000 and 2001 in Hawaii. So he's leaving. If he does decide to step away, which he will, I believe, a little bit, he's leaving it in good hands. Those guys know what it takes to run a business. In terms of other promotions being able to step up and get it done, it's not going to happen, man. It's just, there's just too big of a gap. You've already seen it enough. How much the NFL is worth, like, I don't know, $200 billion or something like that, right? But every organization that's tried, you have the whatever those other AFLs, American Football League, and all these other things that are run with like The Rock and all these other football leagues have tried. They always come up short. It always comes up short. There's just no one cares. Like that's the hardest part. I think if you're going to start another organization, you have to get people to care. And I don't think it's there. I don't think people care outside of the UFC. And look at the one championship, they're hemorrhaging money. They're $600 million in debt. PFL and Bellator have merged now. Bellator is gone. PFL is doing their thing. I think what they're doing right now is what they should have done last year is put together the best fighters into one tournament and a single elimination. Fuck the point system.
yeah.
And go ahead. It's just too complicated to follow. And then plus you have fighters that are throwing fights. I mean, they basically kicked those two guys out because they were teammates or knew each other and they were matched to fight. And they both had a win, so they both were going to get in or whatever. And they decided not to fight hard against each other so they could be fresh and not get hurt for the actual tournament finals. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
And so like that whole system doesn't work. There's things that people have tried, it doesn't work. What I do think will work is what they're doing now. The tournament series will work the way that they're doing it, single elimination. What they've got to do, though, to make it more entertaining is literally like do kind of what Scott Coker did with the whole ball drop or whatever it is and random person selects a number and they put themselves up on a board in a location. And then, whoever else comes in second gets to pick who they want to fight. The champion's always part of the tournament and the belt moves with the tournament. And you just kind of work it through that way. And the champion at the very end gets to select whoever they want to fight. So if somebody selected that person, they can bump that person out of the way, but they get the end result of where they want to fight and who they want to fight. Let the champion have a control over, where and when they fight, because they're the champion. But if they lose, they lose. And they can work their way however they want. They seat themselves in the bracket, but at the very end, and they push people out of the way. So I think that's one of those things. I think that's something they could bring more interest on. If they started doing that, say on YouTube, they started doing that on ESPN, where you do like a 30-minute or an hour-long show where guys are picking their numbers and moving along, and fans get to follow along and they get excited. This is my fighter. I can't wait to see where he's fighting, when he's fighting. And then tickets go on sale that day. They go on, like, once okay, this is the location, boom, Ticketmaster for that event and that venue is already set. Let's go. And tickets are on sale that moment. So people are excited to start buying tickets for that moment. I like that idea. Those are things that I think the PFL should maybe look to try to pick up. But outside of that, I don't think there's really much else that another promotion coming up can do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fair enough. I definitely agree. I think, like you kind of mentioned, it's just going to be hard to top the UFC, just like kind of like you mentioned, even with the NFL and all that different stuff. I mean, I just think really the only way, if you're going about opening another promotion, is just doing like BKFC, Karate Combat, just kind of finding another avenue like that. I feel like is really the best way to kind of go about it. But another thing I was curious about.
Let's be honest though, if the UFC decided, like with boxing, they're going to ultimately, I think, take over boxing as well.
Yeah,
and eventually, I mean, like you just heard Joe Rogan brought up yesterday. He's like, look, he thought it was a dumb idea for them to start slap fighting, when he's like, look, why don't you start kickboxing and just have them wear MMA gloves? It makes perfect sense. The most exciting fights right now being seen with the most fantastic knockouts and highlight reel knockouts is the one championship kickboxing fights with MMA gloves. Get rid of the bigger gloves, have them fight kickboxing with MMA gloves. I'm sorry, but like that's kind of what Muay Thai had originally started off with, right? Wrap the hands in gauze, I know all the fake stuff with the glasses and all that shit, put the glass on the knuckles. But regardless, it came away with, there was no real big gloves and padding for them to block, and they were just kind of wrapping their hands, whether it was in rope or whether it was in gauze, whatever it was, but they had some of the best knockouts. And so I think if you do that, if you have something where you have MMA gloves on to lessen the cuts, but now you'll have more knockouts. Still have elbows, still have knees, still have all these things. I think that you'll have a very successful program, and look for them to really start making that push into all different types of sports, all combat sports. So if you have kickboxing and you've got slap fighting and you've got MMA and now you're getting boxing, you put all of those together and you have UFC Fight Pass. And guess what? It's all available on UFC Fight Pass. What they've been doing now is building their library in the UFC Fight Pass, and look for them ultimately to start their own channel down the road, down the line, and they will make it all happen. They will have their own network. They'll have their own app, which they already do, and everything will be on there. So then they don't have to go to someone to get money. They will just do it on there, and everyone will pay to watch all the combat sports. I'm foreseeing the future, and I'm letting you guys know, man, you heard it here first. That's exactly where they're headed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense. No doubt about it. I mean, as you can see, they're picking up everything nowadays. I definitely can see it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the future, no doubt about it. Another thing I've been curious about as well, too, man. It just seems like it's been growing more and more nowadays. Is it's like these eye pokes, these low blows. I mean, how do we kind of stop it? I mean, I guess my big thing as well too is I think a lot of the refs they're not willing to take that point because it's so like it will change the fight so much because of the 10-9 scoring system. I just don't know how we can kind of fix it so then these refs actually pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
I think the way we would have to probably try to make it to change it would be to take some of the pressure off the refs. And how you do that is by creating a half-point system. Yeah. So if I create a 10-9.5 system, like for rounds that are close, and the ref doesn't want to get involved too much. Okay, look, he eye poked him. You could tell it was accidental. He went to grab the head. The guy dipped into it, poked him in the eye. Okay, accidental. Okay, you do it again. Boom. I will take a half a point. And instead of doing a full point where the round's already lost in a 3-round fight, it just doesn't make sense. Refs they don't want to insert themselves in the decision of the fight. So what are you going to do? Like if I start taking a point for, I kicked you in the groin. Well, the guy jumped in at the same time and he's a 5'9" fighter and I'm a 6'3" fighter. I'm sorry, but it ends up happening. It happens all the time. I fought Kid Yamamoto, and that's the fight that got me into the UFC. I think Kid was like 5'4" or 5'5". Here I am, 5'10", almost 5'11", and kick him right in the nuts. He stepped in, and he was a shorter fighter, broke his cup. He couldn't continue. That's the reality of it. Like, you step in and you're going to throw a big shot, and you're stepping into me, and my foot is trying to hit the inside of your leg kick. And next thing you know, you're getting a groin shot. So it happens quite a bit. We gotta be honest with the situation. Did he do it on purpose? Did it look like he did it on purpose? And until we get gloves that are more curved, that's another way to stop it. So I think if you do where you try to minimize the damage the ref can commit to shaping the direction of where the fight goes or deciding the outcome of the fight. I think what we do is we create the half point scoring system. And that's one way of doing it. And I think until the UFC creates a glove, sends gloves out to fighters, give them like 3 or 4 mock-ups and send it out to say 150 fighters, or send it out to 100 fighters of your top fighters and say, hey, what do you think of these? Let's do 3 months of you using them on a daily basis. Give us back feedback. And we're going to go ahead and try to make the change. And if it's a glove that the fighters accepted and said, hey, these gloves are the best gloves. We feel good training in these. We like how they feel, all the things, but we're trying to minimize eye pokes. These are the ones that we decided on. It takes the pressure off the UFC when it comes down to the media and the eye pokes and all that stuff, saying, hey, you guys, the fighters chose these gloves. These are the ones that they wanted. It takes it off of the UFC. It takes the responsibility, I think, so much off the UFC. And I go back to the old Pride gloves, which Dream and Ryzen still use, that style of glove with the neoprene thumb and the very big curvature in the front, less padding in the front, more padding on the back with the full wrist wrap, Velcro, and then they tape over that with laces here in the middle too. So it actually, the curvature actually helps you grab and keep hold the wrist control or anything that you want to grab when you're grappling. It also makes it a lot more knockouts. If you remember Pride knockouts were happening almost every fight. You have 3 or 4 of them almost every fight because there was less padding in the front and more padding in the back of the glove. And then the wrist just protected fighters' wrists. So it actually made it a stiffer, more compact thing so your wrist couldn't bow in and out and alleviate the pressure from the knockout. So there's ways that they can do it. It's just a matter of they don't want to do it. They don't want to make the changes. They don't want to spend the money. I think they should. And then they could put to rest all of this nonsense about how, like, what can we do? Take it off the refs. This is an organizational thing. You saw there was less eye pokes with your new gloves, but there was less knockouts. And you decided to go ahead and keep going forward with the other gloves. You decided to go back to the other gloves, the ones that had more knockouts but had more eye pokes. You made that choice. So what do you want? You want less eye pokes? I mean, you're telling the fans that you don't give a fuck about eye pokes and fighter safety. You're just saying, no, I want more knockouts. You just said that. That's basically exactly what you said. Your actions speak louder than words, and that's exactly what they just did.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That's actually kind of a good point, no doubt about it, when it comes to switching the gloves. But when it comes to the half point system, I definitely think that could really be key in the future because I really do think that's the big thing with the refs. I mean, especially like Herb Dean recently, like he gave a warning, and then like a couple seconds later, then another one happened in one of the fights recently, and then he didn't do anything about it. And I think if the half point system is kind of a thing, I would see maybe more of these refs kind of pulling the trigger in the future.
Well, not only that, but then you have like with the Jan Blachowicz fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Neither guy really deserved a whole lot of like a full point in terms of winning the round. A half point system would have definitely made a bigger outcome on how close that fight was. When it comes to scoring for the judges, and it's a tit for tat back and forth fight, I don't want to give him a full point. I don't want to say you won that whole round. I want to give you a half point. So if the guy who wins the next round wins the whole round, he's actually winning the fight. It's not 1 for 1. Now we're even going in the third. No, he's actually winning the fight. Now it's up to that guy in the third round that Hallie has a half point for him to really win. He needs to win, or does he have a draw? And if he wins only by a half point, he needs a full point to win that round and to win that fight. So it makes it a lot more interesting. I think it also gives the fighters an opportunity to really go out there and say, hey, I know the first round was close. I could have lost by a half a round. I could have won by a half a round. Second round, I know I dominated. Now I got to do is just go ahead and get another half point, and I just get the win, or I got to go out there and finish this guy to get the win. So I think the half point makes it easier for the judges. It also alleviates the pressure off the refs when it comes to taking a point in a 3-round fight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I definitely think that could be something in the future. Maybe they could try it on like Dana White Contender Series or something. You never know. But
Yeah.
yeah, another thing I was curious about as well too. I mean, these split decisions as well too. I mean, do you think maybe they could potentially add like more judges in the future, like 5 or 7 or something like that, to kind of figure this out a little bit more too?
That's a question possibly for like someone like Big John. I mean, I
Yeah,
think look, they're having a hard time right now tallying up the scores. It was just 3 judges. Can you
yeah,
imagine if they
exactly.
had 5 or 7?
You don't
Jesus.
think it would be any better if there was more of them?
No.
Okay,
No. More people tend to complicate shit.
okay,
It just really
fair
comes
enough.
down
That's a good
to it.
point.
You know what I mean? Like too many chefs in the kitchen, like too
Okay,
many
that's a
chiefs
good
in the
point.
house kind of shit. Like that's exactly how it ends up being. And then like let's be honest, we're already like when the judges come and we see the scorecards after the fights, everyone's like, that fucking judge this, that fucking judge that. And let's be honest, there was 5 of them or 7 of them. Now you have to blame 2 or 3 judges. Oh, these guys, so these 2 guys are always shitty. These 2 guys are always it puts more blame off on other people when the reality is the fight was close, and it should have been that close. The fighters should have taken over and understood where they're at. Now, I guess you could make a case for open scoring, but I don't think you can make a case for open scoring when it comes to a fight that it doesn't have half score point system. Only because the fights will then become too close. They won't be too close anymore. If I have 3 rounds and you win the 4th and it's a 5-round fight, all you got to do is stick and stay away, and you end up with the Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya type fight. Where the guy just sticks and moves and stays on the outside and runs the whole time. And those are shitty fucking 5th round fights. Those are shitty fights to be judging in the 4th or 5th round, in a fight like that. But if you have if you have a half point scoring system, now the fights are a little bit closer because each round was close or anything along those lines. And the fighters go, look, all I need to do is win this round. I get a full point and I'm going to win this fight. But if I make it close, I may only get a half a point because I didn't win it by enough. And that could be a draw. And then both fighters will have to fight harder because if they both know that it's a draw going into the 5th, they're going to fight their asses off. And if they both know that one guy needs a full point and the other guy needs a half a point to at least win or to draw, he's going to have to fight super hard too because he needs a full point to win instead of a draw. The other guy needs a full point to win or to draw. So it just gives the fighters more options to really take it into their own hands and try and decide the victory. Did I lose you there a little bit?
No, no, I
Okay.
can understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I definitely agree. No, it's definitely interesting mindset, no doubt about it. I think that's definitely some good points for sure. Another thing I was curious about is well too. I mean, obviously, you kind of set yourself up pretty well with your MMA career. I mean, after you're all said and done, you got your podcast and everything like that. I mean, what advice would you kind of give to fighters that are kind of on the tail end of their career, getting ready to retire, so then they can kind of plan for their next step?
Um, Look, every fighter that pretty much leaves, if they didn't make a ton of money, they all try to open a gym.
That's true.
And just so we're very clear about the gym business, I've been in the gym business. I'm still in the gym business. Most people probably know I own a couple UFC gyms in the Bay Area. And that being said, you need to be present at your gyms. You need to be available inside your gyms. I own jiu-jitsu gyms, fitness gyms, kickboxing gyms. Those gyms that I own, I had to be there every single day. Every single day. And when I wasn't there, I saw my member count go down. Don't think that you're going to open a business and not be there. People are signing up, whether you believe it or not, they're signing up for you, but they don't need you to teach classes. They just want to see your face when you're in there. They want to see you socializing with their kid. Hey, how are you, Ricky? What's going on, Tammy? Like they want to know that you're accessible to them, and that's why they're a member. So if you're going to open up a gym as a fighter, be present. It's no different than being like a dad at home. Be present to your kids. That to me, if most fighters tend to go that way. If you don't know what else you want to do, figure it out. If I wish I would have retired a year or two earlier and I could have joined the military. I really wanted to join the military. I decided to fight till I was 39. You could have joined, they had changed the age to 38. Had I retired a year earlier, I could have joined the military. Shit, I'm 46 right now. I would join the military right now if I could. I would love to. But it's just a matter of like they don't take old ass people like me. So that's the thing. So I would love to do it though. It would be something that's high on my list. I thought I wanted to be a firefighter, and then I did some retreats with firefighters, and I realized I did all the studies on firefighters that pretty much 60% of them end up with some sort of throat cancer, gum cancer, like some sort of cancer, lung cancer. They end up with some sort of cancer from breathing in all the smoke and the fumes and everything. So that went out the door. Plus, I've done some escape rooms as a firefighter with full gear set on with Herschel Walker, Phil Davis, and other guys. We had done a full escape house, go in with the hose, try and get people out, take a sand dummy through different areas. It's pitch black, can't see a thing. Let me just tell you, I know it was all fake and there was no real fire in there. It was just hot. They had pumped it in with a lot of heat and smoke. You couldn't see a fucking thing. And I started second guessing like I was going to die. Started panicking a little bit. There was a couple times I had to sit myself up and go, this isn't real. Like nothing's going to happen, and it was just, but that emotion got to me. I was like, man, you can't be in these situations. I did like the idea of being a police officer. I think a lot of fighters that I know have become police officers after their MMA careers. And I know that here in Texas, they've actually a couple guys that I know, they've asked if I wanted to, apply for the police officers being here. And I'm kind of interested in doing that as well. So we'll see. But I enjoy doing podcasts. I enjoy talking fights. I enjoy, this portion of my life. But if you're a fighter that's just leaving the sport, you got to figure out what you want to do. I mean, it could be a bunch of different things. If you have any money saved up, I'm not sure if you want to put it into a gym, but I would recommend like guys like Kevin Holland. He's talking about, oh, I've got all this money. Yeah, but I see you wearing bling. You know how much that bling was? Let's just say that bling was $60,000. Put 20 or 30 of that into the stock market. Be safe. Put it in the S&P 500. Put it into things that will probably still be around in 10 years and see where your money is. Put it into Tesla, put it into Amazon, put it into, Google, put it into the major ones and see exactly where 10, 15 grand grows, in a 10 to 15 year span. Forget about the money. Like you spending 30, 40 grand on bling is just retarded. It's just not, it's one of those things. I'm like, gosh, man, really? Like, what are you doing? And all for someone to come in and potentially steal it from you, break into your house, seeing you have it. I mean, you've already seen, what's it called? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, all their houses were broken into while they were playing.
Yeah.
Do you think they don't know when you're fighting?
Yeah.
On TV. Like all they got to do is show up at your house. They know you're not there. So those are things that you should be taking into consideration. I don't have anything that's super expensive. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've got certain things in my house, but like nothing that's going to be like, oh man, if I lost it, who cares? Like you can't take that shit with you when you die anyways. Never seen a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, why do you need that type of shit? I get it. People want to look nice. They want to do it, but like, you don't need to have extremely expensive stuff that just does nothing for you. So that's just my matter of opinion. I'd say stay away from buying the jewelry. For me, right? I just bought a brand new car. That's a little rough, but that's my one thing, but only because, I've got to make sure that all my stuff fits in there for all the things that I do on the outside. So whether it's fishing, whether it's camping, whatever it is. So, but your wheels are something you can use. Your bling, what are you gonna do with it? But I look at like put some money into the stock market, try to buy houses, try to buy something, I mean, I was able to make some money off of I was able to buy cash triplexes and duplexes that were able to flip and turn around, within 6-7 years and make money off of them. And the ones that I decided to keep, I still collect rent on them. I'm not getting rich, but I mean, it does take the burden off of me, collecting $1,200 a month or $1,800 a month, from a couple rentals that I have is a big deal. If you're making $3,000 a month and you already paid for them in cash, I mean, you're just basically paying the property tax on them and they pay for themselves. They give you a little extra cash in the month and it burdens your responsibility. So those are things to maybe start looking at.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think that's some solid advice. No doubt about it. And another thing, obviously, a hot topic that's kind of going on at the moment. Cain Velasquez, obviously, everything that's kind of going on with him. I mean, what do you kind of think about the situation, and maybe what was some of your favorite memories with Cain?
Oh man, I've got a lot of favorite memories with Cain, man. Cain's been fun, man. He's been a big ass teddy bear. People don't understand how much of a teddy bear he is. He's great with his family. He's great with his kids. He's a family man. He loves his mother and his father so much. Those are all things that, drives him. He's been a hard worker ever since I've known him, All-American out of Arizona State Wrestling, became UFC champion, came in from the moment he stepped into AKA. He was a kid that just grinded. There was a time where he broke his hand. So when he broke his hand, he couldn't do anything but kick. And so Javier would have him do 1,000 kicks between two bags. So he did one kick that way, two kick, three kick, four kick. He would do step off kicks. He did 1,000 kicks every day for almost 2 months. And that was it because he couldn't do anything else. He couldn't punch, really Shouldn't have been running a whole lot because the vibration would keep the bone from healing. And for 2 months straight, he just did kicks, 1,000 kicks both legs, 500 each leg, side to side. And he's just someone that always worked hard, very humble. I noticed that, people have this image of, because he looks the way he looks and he's got the brown pride tattoo, but man, he's the biggest teddy bear you ever meet, and love it. Being at his wedding, him being at mine, and just being friends and everything like that. Like overall, just a really good person, great person.
Yeah, no, he definitely seemed like a great person, no doubt about it. And like I was mentioning when I was at the DC seminar, he was just going on and on about how he was one of the greatest martial artists to ever live, and if he never got hurt, he would have been better than anybody, and all these different great memories. So I definitely was nice to hear what you had to say about him as well.
Yeah, he's like I really honestly believe that his career was definitely cut short because of injuries. He had some back injuries, he had knee injuries. I mean, his Junior Dos Santos fight, the first one on Fox, he had tore his knee out, the week before. And the UFC just came back to him as like, look, Fox is not going to do this deal unless we, pretty much unless we get this fight on. And they were expecting to have you. And so it came down to him making that deal and saying, look, I'll fight, I'll take the fight, understanding that he couldn't wrestle that fight. And the way to beat Junior was to wrestle. And he just knew he couldn't wrestle. And so he's like, he went out there and took one for the team and did the UFC a solid. He got paid, pretty well for that fight. But it was one of those situations where he had to make a decision, push my career forward or get a big cash grab and, help the UFC elevate so I can be elevated later. And he was a company man. So Kane doing what he did was very important. And for the sport in general, because think about that. We went from Fox, which we had a great experience on, the sport of MMA did. And then they moved it into ESPN. Now, no one knows where they're going to go next, but regardless, you made it to the highest level when you've got your combat athletes on ESPN. You're on the biggest sport network in the world. It's fantastic. And Kane was one of the biggest reasons why we were there. And I know he came up short that night, but he came back and won the title, beat Junior again for the second time, and moved on and so on and so on, But injuries is really what got him. The Junior injury where he tore his knee out, and then he had back injuries after that multiple times. I mean, the third Junior fight, I didn't know if he'd be able to make it. He was having a hard time with his low back. He was struggling a lot with his low back, and people don't realize like his knee got messed up again for the Ngannou fight, but he had restructured his contract. He wanted more money for that. And it just became this big deal. It was a big deal. The Verdum fight, we thought honestly he shouldn't have taken the fight. His head was all over the place during that fight. And it was in Mexico City. We didn't like the fact that it was in Mexico City just because of the altitude. I think it was at 7,000 or 8,000 altitude. Anytime you have fights there, which we have fights there this weekend, anytime you have fights there, just don't expect the outcome to be what it is, because guys get tired, they get exhausted, their body shuts down. They can't fight at the pace they would normally fight at. I said, if you're somebody that goes into a fight on that weekend, don't expect, if you're a fan watching these guys fight, don't expect to see the same fighter you've always seen. It's just a different. It's a huge difference when you see these guys fighting at altitude.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's definitely different, and I'm curious to see how these fights are going to go this weekend for sure. Now that you mentioned that, and another thing I was curious about as well too. I'm a Taekwondo instructor myself. I've been teaching for about 6 years now, and I have a bunch of guys in my gym. What advice would you give to those guys at the gym to keep on coming in to get better and better every class?
I mean, just consistency. That's what it all comes down to, is just being consistent, and not always taking it serious, having fun with it. Like if you're, I tell people that, when they're learning jiu-jitsu or when they're learning like lacrosse or they're learning soccer or whatever it is, watch video of people and watch how they're having fun and they're goofing around, but they're out there on the field doing it. Now take that to the next level. You're at practice. It doesn't count for anything. Go out there and try and do something you wouldn't normally do. Like everyone just tries to win in practice when it doesn't mean shit. No, you need to win out there on the mat when it's go time. Try and do it in practice so you can do it out there on the mat when it's go time. So I try to tell kids that when they're learning jiu-jitsu, like if you want to jump flying triangle, jump flying triangle. What's the worst that's going to happen? You get put on bottom, the round ends, and it's just practice. There's just things, if you want to try and do it, but do it in practice and have fun with it. And if you don't get it, laugh at yourself. Like, hey, at least I tried. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like doing things that you wouldn't normally do in practice. Do it that you wouldn't normally do, you got to try and do them in practice and have fun with them, laugh and joke about it, and it's nothing's more fun when your friends are off to the side going, man, I can't believe you did that stupid thing. But you're like, hey, I fucking did it. And they're like, man, you're crazy. I can't believe you did it, but you tried and you did it. And then the one time you do hit it, they're gonna be like, bro, you hit this thing. Yeah, because I tried it before. You hit this move. I didn't think you were gonna be able to hit it, but you hit it. It's because you've done it before. You've tried it a couple times. And now it just comes, it just flows. Now you start opening situations where you see the setups and you see when to hit it and it becomes more fluid. Just having fun with it. And I think that's what I could recommend to anyone who's training anything.
Yeah, no, I definitely think having fun definitely will elevate your game, no doubt about it. And kind of like you mentioned, as long as you're having fun, you're actually out there, it will definitely help your game, no doubt about it. And Josh, man, it's been awesome having you on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me
Okay.
about a little bit of everything. But what's maybe your final message out there for the fans watching this video?
I mean, realistically, man, just keep an eye out, man. I'm doing a show right now, weighing in with Big John McCarthy, who has written the rules, and he offers a referees course called it's called the Command Course. You guys can sign up through his website, and I think it's what is it? Is it referee MMA? I think it's. Anyways, look up John McCarthy's Command Course. He's got one coming up the week before International Fight Week at Extreme Couture's in Las Vegas. So if you guys are in the area, sign up for that. And it's a great course, man. So if you guys are interested in being a ref, you guys can see all the shit the referees got to think about instead of sitting on your couch talking shit. Yeah, try that. But we also do a podcast called Weighing In. Subscribe to us over there. I'm also doing another show called Bad Takes with my buddy Angelo. We do that on We Want Picks. And I do another show with the WWE wrestler, a former WWE wrestler, and AEW wrestler now, Bobby Lashley, and Rich Chow, who is the manager who manages several guys and the former matchmaker at Strikeforce and in Bellator. The three of us do a podcast called The Dad Dojo. Subscribe to us on our platforms, all on YouTube. All three of them on YouTube. We're also across all other platforms as well. So that's kind of my last message, man. I want to thank you guys for listening to me, man. Hope that didn't bore you.
No, man, you've been awesome, Josh. I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, learned a little bit of everything about your career, about what's going on, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time, man. It means a lot to me, and best of luck with everything you got going on, my man.
My man, take it easy, man. Thanks for having me.